What's up, guys? So are there factually, quote, alternate suspects that exist in this case?
We need to know the timeline of all of the evidence in this case and when the state knew what it knew, or why certain things were being looked at before Mr. Kohberger's arrest or well into late in the year in 2023 related to the victims, and try to piece together, is that something that the state is still seeking because they're pursuing the alternate suspects that exist in this case?
To properly assess this topic, let's talk more about the cell and car evidence that will be at the forefront of the battle of the upcoming motion to change venue hearing. Why would Brian, a PhD candidate in criminology, and in this day and age of surveillance cameras, drive his own car to a target and make multiple awkward passes and turns directly in front of that target just before he planned to burglarize and commit a quadruple homicide? Why? Because it's not Brian's car. How did Brian commit this heinous up-close and personal attack alone in less than 10 minutes, then immediately jump back into his car without transferring any victim DNA at all? I worked for the U.S. Navy in the Department of Biomolecular Science and Engineering, doing research on a variety of biomatter on a molecular level. So I'm very familiar with the advanced technology the government has, not only to detect, but also analyze biomatter and genetic material. It is 100% forensically impossible that Brian did all of that to 4 humans and did not transfer one tiny drop of victim DNA into his car. The FBI completely dismantled his car, including taking the pedals off, and also found no evidence of cleaning. Brian did not clean his car. Fact end of. The total lack of victim DNA in Brian's car is 100% exculpatory evidence. Now let's migrate over to the cell evidence pursuant to stalking. Just last week, the prosecution finally provided some clarification on those 12 cell phone pings and the stalking surveillance narrative spread by the fake news media for 16 months post-arrest. Quote, the PC affidavit did not explicitly state the defendant was, quote, near the actual home of the victims, but stated the defendant was in the vicinity of a cell tower servicing the area of the victim's residence 12 times prior to the homicide. So the cell evidence prior to the murders supporting that stalking surveillance narrative is 100% false. Now let's talk about the cell evidence from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. on the morning of November 13th.
This is specifically from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. on the morning of the 13th, arguably the most critical time period of this entire investigation. They mapped a handful of connections. When I say handful, they mapped 18%. When you add the other 82%, it tells a much more detailed story. Everything that I've seen to date is concerning to me because it's exculpatory.
So let's recap what we now know. The cell and car evidence are both exculpatory. There was factually no stalking. Brian's phone nor car were at 1122 King at the time of the murders as detailed by MPD Payne in the PC affidavit. So whose white sedan was in the neighborhood of 1122 King that fateful night? Whose cell phone factually places them inside that home committing these crimes? Does this case simply amount to corruption and a frame job by the MPD? And if so, who are the real unalivers and alternate suspects? Talk to me.